We now have verbal confirmation from an employee at YouTube that they do curate videos. Well, I'm back in, not technically New York, New Jersey, and right now it is mail time and food time. But today I want to address some of the videos, the Project Veritas videos, because they're showing Nick Dudich, I always call him Nick Dudich, who I actually know personally because I worked with him at Fusion. He's saying a bunch of stuff on camera, he's talking about YouTube and the New York Times, so that's today, but step one, mail, then food, and then we're going to talk politics. I think it's a book.
It is?
I don't know, we'll see. I don't know, man. Maybe a book. Now, I'm going to get on a secret train to a secret location because I've been taking my privacy much more seriously after, you know, death threats and things like that. And my last address was made public and people were sharing that around and things are really tense, so now we're gonna magically teleport home. And we're back. Isn't teleporting fun? So today we're gonna talk about Project Veritas, the New York Times, YouTube, Nick Dudich, this guy Ernest Petty. If you haven't been following the story, Project Veritas has continued their American Pravda series, this time going undercover to record the conversations of New York Times and YouTube employees. This story has to do with the audience strategy editor Nick Dudich, who, full disclosure, I know personally. I actually tweeted about this. We worked together to a certain degree at Fusion. We didn't work on any of the same projects really, but Nick was responsible for strategy with YouTube, Facebook, and other platforms. He wasn't necessarily like a social media editor. I'm not entirely sure what his job was 100%, but I know that he knew a lot about social media and had a lot to do with how YouTube functioned. I tweeted out that knowing Nick, I feel like the story is a bit overhyped. But maybe that wasn't the right thing to say, because the reality is James O'Keefe and Project Veritas are going to hype up whatever they do to an extreme degree. They have to. Everyone's got to sell their product and be proud of it. However, in this instance, I don't think we've uncovered the nefarious plot of some criminal mastermind or some fake news genius who's manipulating the internet and trying to control the minds of all who dwell within. He's not someone who runs things, but according to the Project Veritas videos, Nick controls, he's a gatekeeper, you know, he has his imprint on every video, at least according to his own statements. And he even claimed to be the godson of former FBI director James Comey, which his dad apparently denies and said that Nick is embellishing. Now, if you were to ask me, I'd say embellishing, lying, Nick's a storyteller. So I wouldn't presume that someone in his position at the New York Times or at Fusion would actually be as powerful as they're bragging, as they're claiming to be. But the New York Times responded to Project Veritas by saying, based on what we've seen in the Project Veritas video, it appears that a recent hire in a junior position violated our ethical standards and misrepresented his role. In his role at the Times, he was responsible for posting already published video on other platforms and was never involved in the creation or editing of Times videos. We are reviewing the situation now. So let's address something very important in the story. Is Nick Dudich really powerless? The New York Times says he's a junior level employee, a recent hire who just publishes things that were already published. You know, he posts them to social media. But as we heard in the Project Veritas video, he posts things at times when he feels it could negatively or positively impact the story. I don't know if he actually does this, but what I can say is yes, that would be a serious issue. So for those that are not familiar with how social media editing and publishing works, it's very obvious. Let's say that the New York Times produces a video about Facebook, like Project Veritas was highlighting. Nick can post it at a time when he knows it will get much less traffic than it could. Does that mean he can stop the video from going out? No. If the video has real viral potential and is an important story, it's going to get shared no matter what. But he can certainly put his his foot in the way and try and trip it up. There are certain times of the day when posts just don't do well. I mean 2 a.m. for instance. Now, I don't know if he's going to be able to post things at 2 a.m. if the New York Times would catch on and say, why are you publishing this video so early? But there are times during the day when a video won't do as well. So monitoring analytics and trying to figure out the best time to post to YouTube has been something I've looked into a lot. Certainly, if you are someone who can post to social media whenever whenever you want, if you're the person who does that, you can inhibit some stories. Keep in mind, posting a story at 8 a.m. instead of 2 p.m., it's gonna be detrimental, but it's not really that powerful, right? So Veritas is certainly trying to make it seem like they've, caught the fox in the hen house or whatever, but I just don't think it's that big a deal. I'll tell you what I think is a bigger deal, and that's a statement from Ernest Petty. Ernest Petty is the brand and curation diversity lead, and according to his statements in the Veritas video, he does have the ability to lend a human hand to the YouTube algorithm. I think the rational view of what this means is that the algorithm handles 99% of how videos appear and how they're recommended, but every so often you have to have a human touch to make sure things don't fall out of line. Sometimes videos start trending that probably shouldn't, and then YouTube staff will come in and prop some things up, pull some things down. When it comes to entertainment, this is absolutely fine. If there's a video of something really gory or really bad, yeah, putting disclaimers on it, moving it around might make sense in some rare cases. In my opinion, for the most part, let trending videos trend. But what we do know is that big YouTubers can get 13 million views in a single day and not reach the trending page, but Jimmy Kimmel certainly does. And according to the Project Veritas video, they may have done this in the instance of, say, the James Comey story. Certain stories, YouTube does have an editorial hand in. Now, I'm going to tell you why this is important. With the dawn of the internet and social media, alternative media was able to exist. Huffington Post at one point was alternative media. Bloggers had no respect. There are certain journalists that only operate on Twitter, and they still get barely any respect. Alternative media provides a space for more voices to be lifted up. And for those that are involved in social justice activism, this has been extremely important. Occupy Wall Street was credited heavily with creating alternative means of communication that reached far and wide. In fact, I gave a ton of speeches about it. In fact, today, as you're watching this video, I'm just finishing up a speech about it right now. Social media allows people who aren't wealthy elites, who work for big media conglomerates, to have a voice. These changes we're seeing with YouTube are threatening that, and we haven't had this power for very long, so it's really important that we don't lose it. When we hear that employees at YouTube will decide that some things should not trend and some things should, like I said, entertainment's fine, but with news, it's not. If people want a news story, if this is what they're deciding to listen to, someone shouldn't intervene and take that away from them. People have decided it's important. Yes, there are instances where fake news is bad, but unless it's verifiably false, you should not intervene. In the instance of conspiracy theories, I think there's a fine line where when someone claims that, little green people or that Hillary Clinton is turning into a reptile, sure, do you call that news or entertainment? Are you gonna let that go? I don't know. Some people might share some really bad stuff. In the instance of Vegas videos, the Las Vegas shooting videos where they talk about multiple shooters, that should not be removed. Sure, it could be conspiratorial, but this is amateur investigation. And a lot of people aren't really good at it, as I've explained before, but it's going to be really dangerous when YouTube decides that should not be trending and other things can. The point of all this is that we now have verbal confirmation from an employee at YouTube that they do curate videos. We've suspected it for a long time, okay? When Jimmy Kimmel trends and big YouTubers don't. People have accused YouTube of curation. We know they do it now. The last thing that I need to say, Nick and Ernest are not the head honchos of either of these companies. So let's not play this out to be like the New York Times is colluding with YouTube, because that makes it sound like executives at both companies are working backroom deals. And they very well may be, but at least in this instance, what we know is that two lower level employees are friends, and friends hook each other up. And it is problematic. But it's more problematic that YouTube has an editorial stance. And if YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and other social media platforms, and even Google take an editorial decision on what we're allowed to see, that's the real problem. Not Nick trying to promote some videos for the Times or trying to maybe hide some videos. That's a problem, but that's not that big a deal. The real issue here is the editorial stance of major tech companies, because they do not have journalism at heart. They do not have public good at heart. They're trying to avoid embarrassment, and they're trying to make money. And that is the real problem. Let me know what you think. Comment below. Stay tuned to new videos every day at 4 p.m. You can follow me on Twitter at Timcast. Make sure that you click the like button because it apparently matters. And you can support my work by going to timcast.com/donate. Give whatever you'd like or give nothing at all. My videos are always free and available every day at 4 p.m. Stay tuned. Catalonia seems to have been slowing down, but weird stuff is still happening, and I may actually fly out to California, so we'll see. Breaking news every day, and I'll see you then.